Keep up to date everywhere. News Talk 820 WBAP.
In the WBAP newsroom.
You know, here on Memorial Day 2016, we honor those who lost their lives fighting for the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy. But there are many others who fought those battles for us, who come home broken, essentially, and suffering from PTSD. Shannon Walker is an expert on PTSD, and she's kind enough to carve out some time for us early this morning. Here she's on the West Coast, folks. Thank you, Shannon, for doing this on Memorial Day. But we're seeing a rising number of vets asking for help. Do we have enough folks there to help them?
Well, I don't know if we have enough folks there to help them, honestly. I don't think so. I don't think that society has wrapped their mind around with enough knowledge to understand what they actually need. But what I will say is that in the last 4 years since I started Northwest Battle Buddies, a lot of people have gotten educated and inspired to find their own gifts and talents and find a way to give back to our veterans. So it is something that is on the rise as far as helping them, but they certainly need so much more because it definitely, with a suicide rate of 22 veterans a day, it definitely is an epidemic.
One of the numbers that I saw was that we've seen a 44% increase since 2010 as far as the number of vets seeking help and battling PTSD. Is that number right?
I believe it is. I believe it absolutely is, because it wasn't socially acceptable to even, especially for somebody in our military who has been, taught to be so brave and strong. Well, they are brave and strong. That's why they're in our military. But they're, it's something that they've masked and hidden with isolation, and they've self-medicated. And the fact now that they see other veterans coming out and asking for help and actually overcoming their PTSD, they actually are. They're an inspiration to the ones that need to ask for help. So it's definitely coming out more, and I believe it's been something that's been with us forever. We just didn't recognize it as PTSD. And
the way that we did recognize it, though, was not necessarily the right way, because if you think back to old movies and things like that, and if a character was what we call shell-shocked back then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were never a part of society again. And we all knew people growing up in our hometowns who had come back from Vietnam or Korea who were experiencing those same sort of issues, and they weren't a part of the community.
No, they weren't, because isolation is their biggest symptom of PTSD. And so you don't notice somebody who's not there. But it's when they're trying to get back into their life and have freedom and independence, and they have those traumas and they have those, triggers of panic attacks and that they face, then people start to recognize it, not to mention the stuff that we've seen on the news, true self-medication that they do. And so it definitely is something that's been with us the whole time.
One of the big changes that has occurred is it relates to the VA, where the VA now, and correct me if I'm wrong, they actually, anytime they see a patient, they go through a little mental health check now, right?
Oh, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And that's something new. They never did that before, or they didn't used to do that. But I know that now when they go to any sort of doctor's visit with the VA, there's a basic mental health check that they have to pass.
Yes, I believe so, because PTSD is so prevalent. It helps them diagnose for an overall, health program for the veteran.
Yeah. Tell me this. The VA catches a lot of flack, and I think from an administrative standpoint, probably rightfully so. But there are a lot of good people who work for the VA, and we don't tell the good stories of the VA very often. How do they handle PTSD, and have they sort of changed with the times, and are they providing enough care and assistance for these guys?
I don't think they are providing enough care and assistance, but I will tell you this, there is a trend that is starting that I've personally experienced or heard from our vets that are a part of Northwest Battle Buddies, to where they are starting to get more educated and better at helping them as far as diagnosis and taking PTSD seriously. I think they're also starting to look now, I know they are starting to look now at not just trying to medicate with drugs. It's about looking at other alternative medicine to help our veterans, with PTSD, to have a life of freedom and independence, drug-free. And even looking at service dogs, they actually have passed a bill now to where service dog organizations that are ADI approved, Assisted Dogs International approved, that the VA will pay up to $27,000 per dog, whereas before, the VA would pay for nothing where service dogs were concerned. Even though the VA, for us personally, the VA recommends and prescribes service dogs for their veterans, but yet they were not willing to pay anything. Now there's a bill in place, and I believe is now passed, that they are going to start paying, which will be a significant help to the veterans that need it.
All right, Shannon Walker, an expert on PTSD, and thank you for the time this morning. Thanks for getting up early with us on this Memorial Day when we honor those who lost their lives. Let's also think about those suffering out there who served and helped defend our liberties across the world. Thank you to Shannon for the time this morning.